All right, Advanced Math, Unit 3, Lesson 1. Three one, angles in standard form. Sorry. Angles in standard form. All right. This is now starting to be reviewed from last year. Standard position. Do you guys remember your unit circle you spend all that time with? Okay. That's what we're going to be starting this unit. Okay. Standard position, you always start from here, from 0, and then you either move up in the positive direction, or you can move what? Down in the negative direction. This line there is called your terminal side. Terminal side. All right, so you start at 0, and then you swing up 30 or 40 or 50 degrees, or you swing down negative 30, negative 40, negative 50, even negative 180. Positive direction, negative direction. That line there that's showing the position of your angle is called the terminal side. All right, more quick review. What is this quadrant called that I'm pointing to right here? 1. This one is 2, 3, and 4. All right, if you don't want to use Roman numerals and you want to use numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm okay with that. This is 0 degrees. What does this angle measure up here? 90, this one on the side, 180 at the bottom, and all the way around 360. Do you guys remember coterminal angles? Did you guys do that last year? Yeah. Okay, 0 and 360 are those coterminal angles, meaning when you graph 0 and you graph 360, do you end up in the same spot? Yeah. Yes. All right, questions? Okay, sketch in standard position. Sketch in standard position. Number 1, 30 degrees. All right, when you're doing homework, let's make a small little grid. You're going to do each one on its own grid. Don't do like numbers 29 through 34 all on one grid. Small little grid for each one. Positive 30. So am I going in the upward direction or downward? Which quadrant? 1. If this is right down the middle, would it be a little bigger or a little smaller? What's right down the middle between 0 and 90? 45. So would 30 be a little bigger or a smidge bit smaller? Just a smidge, right? And again, we're just approximating, but you do want to show your arrow. And this is your 30 degrees. Terminal side for 30-degree angle. Do you guys remember this and it's pretty easy, yes or no? Yes. Okay. Number 90 degrees. All right. Number 2, 90 degrees. Am I going the upward direction or the downward direction? And 90 degrees is right here. Do you agree? It's a little harder to show it, so I'm going to put it in this magenta color. And I'm going up 90 degrees. Agree, yes or no? All right, number 3. What about 120 degrees? Which quadrant? And they will ask you this type of questions. Which quadrant does this angle lie? If this is 90 and this is 180, where does the 120 lie? In the second. Never use, when you're using like your reference angle, you're never going to use the 90 or the 270. So how far from 180 is the 120? 60. So think of going up here 60 degrees, and that's where you're going to draw it. So that would be your 120. It is coming from this this line right here, But when you graph it, you want to think, well, how far am I from the 180 or the 360, depending on where you're graphing. And does everyone agree 60 degrees is how far I am from the 180? Do you guys remember using that as a reference angle last year? 60 degrees. Right, number 4, 200 degrees. So if this is 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360, which quadrant is 200 in? Third. Same question. Do I ask myself how far from the 270 or how far from the 180? Do I ever use the 270 or the 90? No. You're always asking yourself how far from 180 or 360. So how far past the 180 am I? 20. So it's not very far past. Do you agree? And you put your arrow like that so we know we're going in the positive direction. So if I asked you, what's your reference angle, which we will do eventually, what would you say? 20. All right. Number 5, negative 120 degrees. All right, negative 120, which direction am I going? Upward or downward? All right, you want to make sure that you label, this is negative 90. Thank you. This is negative 180, and I did forget to start with 0. Negative 90, negative 180, what would this be up here? Negative 270, and then negative 360. Negatives are a little harder sometimes to work with, like how far and where am I. Which quadrant would I be at for negative 120? Would it be the third? Now, do I ask myself how far past the 90 or how far to the 180? Do I ever use the 90 or 270? Okay, so negative 120 is how close or how far from the 180? So think of going down 60 degrees from here, so that's 45. It's a little further down, and that there is your negative 270. If I asked you what's your reference angle, what would you say? 60 degrees. I'm just going to squeeze it in there. They didn't ask us that. They won't ask us that today, but should we know it eventually? Your reference angle is your angle from your terminal side to your x-axis. All right, how many of you guys feel like, oh yeah, I remember this? Good, good, good. Okay, number 6, 395 degrees, positive. So this is 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, and 360. Will I go around one whole time on this one? Yes. So I go around at least once to 360. How far past the 360 will I go? What do you do? 395 minus 360, what do we get? So if I go around once, how far past the 360 will I go? 35 degrees. So you draw it like that. You've gone all the way around and ended up there. What's your reference angle? 35. What's a coterminal angle? You add 360 and subtract 360. You're correct. I heard somebody say it. Would positive 35 degrees get me in that same spot? Yes. All right, questions? Okay, we're going to move on to coterminal angles and be done. Find two coterminal angles. One positive and one negative. And tonight's notes that you guys are going to watch, the 3.2, is going to have this exact stuff, but with radians. Do you guys remember radians, like pi over 3 and pi over 6? Yep, pi over 4, that kind of stuff. All right. Okay, so coterminal. What does that mean? I'm going to put equivalent or the same as. All right, now who said about adding and subtracting? What did you say? One more time, a little louder. Good job. Add and subtract 360 degrees. When you did this last year, did you guys also do it with the radians? What would you add and subtract if you're working with radians? Does anybody remember? 2 pi. You guys are awesome. So that'll be tomorrow's or tonight's lesson because you'll watch it tonight. Okay. Number 1. (45 degrees). So if I want to find a coterminal angle to 45 degrees, from the 45, can I go all the way around adding 360 and end up at the same spot? If I add 360, is that one complete revolution all the way around? So if I start at the 45 and add 360, so what would we have? 45 plus 360. Can any of you guys calculate that? 405 degrees. Now if I wanted a negative, what would I do? I'd still start at the 45, but I would go the other way around. So I would do 45 what? Minus 360. Can you guys calculate that? Negative 315. So are these two coterminal angles? Yes? All right, next one. Okay, 460 degrees. Does it make sense that if it's that big of an angle, we have one complete revolution all the way around and then going further? Yeah. Yes. All right, so let's go ahead and add. So we have 460 degrees plus 360 because I'm trying to go all the way around and end up at the same spot. Can you guys do that now? 460 plus 360 is what? Is 820. And then what are you going to do? 460, take away 360, so now you're going in the opposite direction. And what happens? We still have a positive. What does that mean? That means that number was so big that when we went around the other way, we still ended up with the positive. But what did I say? I wanted one positive and... Does anybody know what to do when you still end up with the positive? Subtract again. Did you guys deal with those last year? No? 100 minus 360 equals what? Negative 260. All right, here's my negative. From the positive, technically, how many positive answers did you come up with? 2. Does it matter which one you box in? You could box in the original because that's the first one you found. There's your positive, there's your negative. Or you could have done 100 with negative 260. Would that still be a positive and a negative coterminal angle? Questions? We're good. Yes?